Okay, so as I said, we can talk about which. Let us see first. We it developed is the industrial policy resolution 1948, then industrial policy resolution 1956, then monopolies and restrictive trade practices act 1969. Yes, then followed with liberalization of industrial policy regime 1980s, and then finally the new industrial policy. After that, there is no new resolution which has come up. Okay, so as you say also that the resolution was, the first resolution was passed on April 6, 1948, and the resolution accepted the importance of both the private and the public sectors for the development of the industrial sector. And the 1948 resolution was accepted the importance of small and cottage industries as they are suited for the the utilization of local resources and highly labor intensive. So 1948 was cottage industries and highly labor intensive. Okay, now the 1948 resolution divided the industries into four categories. Okay, so first it was that the industries were with the state monopoly, so only there was the state monopoly. Under that it was arms and ammunitions, then atomic energy and rail transport. So that was the first division. The second division was called as the mixed sector. Now under this there was coal, then iron and steel, aircraft manufacturing, shipbuilding, telephone and telegraph manufacturing, wireless apparatus, mineral oils. Okay, and then the third sector which was divided was government control sectors. Okay, so under this there were 18 industries of national importance were included in this category. So the government did not directly undertake the production in these sectors, but they decided and they regulated them. So I'll give you some examples like automobile industries, then heavy chemical, heavy machinery, machine tools, fertilizers, electrical engineering, sugar, paper, cement and cotton. So they were all under the control of the and in the vigilance of the government of India. And the fourth sector was called, which was given to the private enterprises. Now all the industries that did not include in the mentioned three categories were left open to the private sector. So this is the way it was divided. Coming to 1956. So here the policy resolution of 1956 laid down the following objectives, they wanted to increase the growth rate and speed up the pace of industrialization. They developed heavy industries and machine making industries. They expanded the public sector. They reduced the disparities or the inequality between the income and the wealth. And there was also a development of competitive cooperative sector. So this is the time when cooperative sectors also came into being. And they also prevented the concentration of business in few hands, and that is why they created the restriction in creation of monopoly. So what is monopolies? There's the dominance of any industry. Only one person will dominate the entire industry. Okay, so the objectives were chosen carefully and with the aim of creating employment and reducing poverty. So the 1956 resolution also divided the industries into three categories. Okay, so the first was the monopoly of the state. Okay, so there were 17 industries which were chosen, which were exclusively reserved for the public sector. So what were the 17 industries? That is like arms and ammunition, atomic energy, railway and air transport, which were to be monopolies of the state. So they were all under the monopolies of the state, and remaining 13 industries will only state as new entrants, okay, with already the existing private firms. So there were already private firms were looking after those industries, but the government will or the state will only interfere. The second category which it divided was called as the mixed category. Now, mixed category is that under this there were 12 industries which were included. Let us see, there were mineral industries, road transport, sea transport, machine tool, ferro alloys, chemical industries like manufacturing of drugs, then antibiotics, fertilizers, rubber, etc. And then also for chemical pulp, carbonization of coal, aluminium, and other non-ferrous metals. So they were also there. And yes, the third category was called as the private sector. So here all the industries which were not included like the previous, which were not included in the other two categories, these industries were left open to the private sector. Now, to sum up, you can talk about is the 1956 resolution emphasized on the mutual dependence and the existence of public and private sectors. Okay, so the only four industries in which private sectors were not allowed were arms and ammunition, railways, air transport, and atomic energy. In all the other sectors, either private sector was allowed to operate freely or will provide help to the government sector as and when needed. So, Industries Development and Regulation Act was created in 1951. Now, this Industries Act was passed by the Parliament on October 1951 to control and regulate the process of industrial development in the country. Now, basically, it's to, what was the main intention? The main intention was the regulation of industrial investment and production according to the 5-year plans. And it was also, there was also this resolution was passed to protect the small scale enterprises from the giant enterprises. Okay, there was also the prevention of monopolies and concentration of ownership of industries in the few hands. And yes, there was a balanced growth was required and equitable development to all the religions, and that is why the resolution was passed. And it was also believed that the state is best suited to promote a balanced growth by channelizing the investment. So investment should happen with everybody, should get investment. Investment should happen in all the sectors. In the most important sectors, especially investment should happen. Okay. So that is why this way what will happen, there will be a correlation between supply and demand, and competition will be eliminated or will be completely eradicated. And this way there will be optimum utilization of social capital. Okay, so major provisions of this act was restrictive provisions, registrations were happening, there was examining happening, and monitoring of industry was happening because of this resolution. Cancellation of the British Raj or the cancellation of the license was completely eradicated. There was new provisions which were reformed, and everything was under the direct control by the government. And there was also a control on price, distribution, and supply. Okay, but what was the problems of this excessive restriction imposed by the government? So first is that there was underutilization, and then there was wastage of precious economic sources, because sometimes the government also cannot utilize it properly. Yes, the licensing requirement and the concentration of industries in the hands of the few rich industrial, this was actually not happening. Okay, and yes, there was a lot of corruption there was going on. There was rise of corporate bureaucrats, so only the corporate big giants were getting benefited. There was regional imbalances. Okay, and killing of competition and was killing of innovation. So you should not completely kill competition, so there was no innovation happening. And yes, new firms were restricted to grow. Okay, there were huge losses to the economy due to the creation of highly inefficient industrial sector. So these were the major reasons. Okay, so now let's talk about the liberalization policy of 1980. So yes, when we are talking about the liberalization, that's the fourth resolution which government of India had passed. So yeah, there was an exemption from licensing, there was a relaxation to the MRTP Act and the FERA guidelines were promoted here. There was delicensing of a large range of industries at this moment of time. Okay, lots of benefits were granted under the scheme to industries who successfully achieved utilization of 90% capacity for the growth. Okay, and there was broad branding of industries. So branding had changed. Under this, the government branded the industries into very broad categories, like for example, cars, then jeeps, then tractors. Light and heavy commercial vehicles are branded as four wheelers, so it was a big brand. Then there was a promotion of economies of scale, that cost should be reduced in production process to reduce the cost by allowing firms to expand more. There was also a development of backward areas at this moment of time. Incentives were provided to the exporters. There was promotion of small scale industries by increasing their investment limits. Yes, and then in this period of time, especially in the liberalization of industrial policy regime 1980s, the new industrial policy 1991 was architected, or it was formed, or it was created. Okay, so this was a time when this was created. Okay, so now let us talk about something about the new industrial policies. Okay, now as I said, let me write down here, let me mention this. The new now, in the backdrop of severe balance of payment of crisis, so there was a balance of payment of crisis in 1991. The government, in continuation of the measures announced during the 1980s, they had lot of measures, and they announced, they tried their level best, and finally they announced a new industrial policy on July 24th, 1991. Now, this new industrial policy was a major structural break for the Indian economy, and the policy had deregulated the industrial sector in a substantial manner. Now, the major aims of this new policy were to carry forward the gains already made in the industrial sector, corrections, if any corrections were required for the existing market, and any disagreement which was happening in the industrial sector, that was also rectified. Yes, also to give gainful and productive employment, and to attain global competitiveness. Okay, so basically delicensing was very important. So 18 industries, abolishment of 18 industrial licensing was abolished, except the 18 industries only. So abolishment of industrial licensing for all except 18 industries. Like some examples I'll give you, like coal, petroleum, sugar, animal fats, leather, wood based products. So they were not delicensed. Okay, so now with the passage of time, the licensing requirements were further reduced also. So licensing was reduced. Okay, and as of today, only 5 industries like alcohol, cigarettes, hazardous chemicals, electronic, aerospace and defense equipments and industrial explosives require licensing. Apart from, so only 5 industries are requiring licensing now. And in respect of de-licensed industries, no government approval is required. So yes, here also if you see, the role of public sector has reduced substantially, and there is an entry of foreign investment, like now if you see also, like now if I let me talk about the public sector, the industries reserved for public sector has been reduced from 17 to just 8. Okay, so now the private sectors can also include their goal, and they also can make they can build industries based on those products. The 8 reserve industries, which are, that is arms and ammunition, atomic energy, coal, lignite, mineral oils, mining of iron ore, magnesium ore, etc., and mining of copper, lead, zinc, etc., and rail transport. Okay, so these are under the public sector. And as of today, only 3 industries are reserved for public sector. So that also has been changed. So only atomic energy, minerals specified in this schedule to the atomic energy, and rail transport. So these are under the public sector. Now the government also has decided to give away the shareholdings in the public sector enterprises. So that I think it is in the news. Let's talk about entry of foreign investment. So entry of foreign firms and investment. So now if you talk about the foreign direct investment, it is 51% under automatic route for high technology firms. So FDI is allowed to 51% under automatic route for high technology firms. FDI is also allowed in capital goods, metallurgical, electronics and processing industries. Yes, presently FDI is allowed up to 100%. I repeat, FDI is allowed up to 100% in large number of industries under the automatic route. The government with effect from 2016 has abolished the FIPB route to FDI in order to improve the ease of doing business. So the FIPB route, okay, has been abolished with effect from 2016 to FDI in order to improve the ease of doing business. Okay, so and then other also, like other important liberalization measures are also undertaken, like the industrial location policy is also liberalized. Then there is an abolishment of phased manufacturing program. So there is an abolishment of phased manufacturing program. There's a removal of mandatory convertibility clauses. So many things have happened, and India has also created new manufacturing policy, that is also very important. So national manufacturing policy 2011. So the success of India's economic story has mainly due to service sector growth, tertiary sector. Now, despite the strong policy measures, the industrial sector, especially the manufacturing sector, is in a stagnant position. It's not grown much. So the maximum contribution from this sector is only 15%. Okay, whereas in China, if you see their GDP, manufacturing sector is contributing almost 45%. So as a result of this, India has failed to get gainful employment to its massive labor force. Okay, so that is why the government has recognized this, and it has promoted the manufacturing sector, and it has launched the National Manufacturing Policy of on November 2011. Okay, so now basically it is here, under this it enables the growth of manufacturing in India. It also has made the simplification of business regulations. Okay, and technological upgradation is happening because of this. It's business has become more friendly now, policies have become more friendly. There is a lot of skill development of the youth, which is the most important part of NMP. It's called in short NMP. And then there is a setting up of National Investment and Manufacturing Zone. So NIMZ. Okay, with a significant incentives like easy land acquisitions, integrated industrial townships have been created. There's a development of world class physical infrastructure. So as of now, if you see, because of this encouragement, there are 12 NIMZs which have been announced so far by the government. Now, out of the 12, only 8 NIMZ, I repeat, only 8 NIMZ are located in Delhi, Mumbai Industrial Corridor. And the other NIMZ is planned to build. It's still in the planning process. So 8 have already been in Delhi and Mumbai corridor. And NIMZ, which the 4 is remaining, the 4 is planned, it's like in the planning process, and it's supposed to be planned in Nagpur, Tumkur, that is in Karnataka, Chittoor, which is in Andhra Pradesh, and Medak, again in Andhra Pradesh. And yes, apart from that, there is another project which is very famous. We are familiar with it. That is Make in India program, which was launched on 25th September 2015. Now, the aim of Make in India program is to project India as well as an efficient and competitive powerhouse of the global manufacturing sector. Okay. So the need of the program is that to see that the manufacturing sector increases the GDP also, it contributes more. Okay. So at least the minimum contribution from this manufacturing sector should be in under this Make in India should be at least 25%. And yes, the story of jobless growth. Okay. So low job creation is that manufacturing sector has set. So more and more jobs should be created from this sector. And India has also developed this middle income trap. Okay. So whereas India will not able to grow a higher growth rate. Okay, and that is why India wants to create a more and more developing sector or manufacturing sector for the middle income people also. Now, no country in the world has become rich and developed without the manufacturing sector, and that is why India has also thought about it. If you see the examples of British Industrial Revolution, then USA, then Japan, then East Asian tigers, all have become successful because of a huge manufacturing sector. Okay, so people have started consuming services also, and the key for India is to sustain this service led growth. So service sector should be encouraged, okay, by way of more should be encouraged by way of manufacturing sector. Okay, and now how is government supporting this program? It is promoting by doing giving loans, by giving easy doing business, promoting the use of technology, opening up new sectors for FDI, introduction of new and improved infrastructure through industrial corridors, strengthening and nurturing innovation is also one program. Okay, so this is the way India is doing a huge project with Make in India project also. And if you can see also, there are various places. One is in Ahmedabad, Dolera, where the project's industrial corridors are opening in region in Gujarat. Then there is in Shendra Bitkin Industrial Park City near Aurangabad, Maharashtra. Then there is Manesar Bawal Investment Region in Haryana. Then we have Kushkera, Bhiwadi, Neem Rana. Okay, so Reem Rana Investment Region, which is in Rajasthan. Then we have Pitampur Dhar Mao Investment Region in Madhya Pradesh. Okay, and then we have Dadri and Noida Ghaziabad Investment Region, which falls under Uttar Pradesh. And the last we have is Dighi Port, Dighi, Dighi Port Industrial Area, which is in Maharashtra. Apart from that, there is also a massive exploitation of FDI also, as I said, 100%. And yes, the government has also eased up the laws of rules and regulation also. There is a stable and conducive government policies. The policies are not changing, so that is very, very good thing. Okay, so that is why this Make in India project has lots of dreams in the coming future also, that there is an investment in research and development happening. There is a skill of youth. Okay, and we are also trying to build artificial intelligence also, like the technology also advancement is happening. And yes, we are also looking at development of core infrastructure, and also promoting a well developed and globally integrated financial markets, promotion and development of young and innovative entrepreneurs. So we need great businessmen from India also. And we need a well developed capital bond market, okay, where businesses can raise money in less interest. Okay, yes, judicial reforms should also happen, okay, so that the corporate laws are protected. Okay, and yes, we, as I had told you in the previous class also, we have to reform. So there is a massive reforming of the labor laws of the country, which is a must. So all the outdated labor laws should change. Okay, and there must be an establishment of a flexible exit policy for firms and reform bankruptcy laws. Okay, so this also should happen. Okay, so as I said, what are the sectors which we are concentrating? India is concentrating on automobile complements, then components, aviation, yes, chemicals, construction, defense manufacturing, IT sector, business process management, BPM, food processing, electronic systems, media and entertainment, mining, oil and gas, pharmaceuticals, leather industries, electrical machinery, yes, renewable energy, railways, ports and shipping, space, textile and garments, thermal power, then roads and highways, and tourism and hospitality. So this is the sectors which under the Make in India project or program, which is started from 2015, we are trying to focus on. So I'll see you in the next class. We will talk about some more policies about industry. We will also talk about something about the public sector and the private sector undertakings in the next class. So thank you so much, guys. I'll see you in the next class. So please go through all the slides and other presentations on my explanations, and I will see you soon in the next class. Thank you so much.